Let me ask you this. What was the biggest prospect that Tennessee's ever lost?
The biggest one that
I'm going to
that
give
they
you
were really in
two.
the running for.
Truly in the running for, I'll give you two, and they're both named Chris. You can guess those. Who can guess that?
Yeah, they're two quarterbacks, but I've got another quarterback.
Chris Sims and Chris Leak is the one that I would go.
You, I could go with both of those. And by the way, Chris Leak, if he commits to Tennessee, that changes everything about the 2005 season, doesn't it? And the disaster that happened. And
Yes, and it changes Florida's destiny too, you would think.
it does. Here's a question. He was never considered in the running because of the Ole Miss hire so quickly. But if David Cutcliffe doesn't leave for Ole Miss, is Eli Manning in the running for Tennessee? Is Tennessee in the running for Eli Manning?
Not if Cutcliffe's not around.
But that's what I mean. If Cutcliffe's around, do you think
Yeah.
there's a chance Tennessee gets Eli Manning from Ole? Did Ole Miss hire David Cutcliffe to make sure Eli Manning didn't go to Tennessee?
Hey, if David Cutcliffe's the offense coordinator now, I think Arch Manning's at Tennessee. I don't know what that means for your head coach or if it's even Josh Heupel or who it is, but yes, I think that Arch Manning would have followed in line with David Cutcliffe. David Cutcliffe, who you met, is getting to the point where he's a little bit old to coach. He doesn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it would have been Arch Manning at Tennessee, and I'm trying to think of some scenario in which Josh Heupel wouldn't be the head coach because I know he liked Nico more than Arch. But let's just say it's some Brent Venables top guy that's a defensive coach, and you got David Cutcliffe to run things on offense. The first guy he's going to go after and get is Arch. Period.
Yeah. And the reason I can't,
whether that's better or not, we can debate. But I mean, that's what would happen.
I could agree with that. The reason it's hard for me to say Chris Sims with the loss is because look, I'm just sorry. If I don't care what school, what time, or what place, if I have to choose between Casey Clausen or Chris Sims as my quarterback, I want Casey Clausen every day on Sunday.
I agree. My issue with Sims, though, was that months after he said there was racial segregation at Tennessee. And
yeah, so he basically threw the school under the bus.
Yeah, so I'm including that. And the other one that I want to include off the top of my head is a guy that played a factor in the Super Bowl, Mecole Hardman. I felt like Tennessee was on the verge of getting the Hardmans of the world, and there were like 3 or 4 in that particular class. You can go back and check his class, and that instead Georgia got him. And at that point, I said I feel like Tennessee has officially lost even being on an even kill in recruiting with Georgia, and that was that Mecole Hardman class. And at that point, I felt like they were in the chase position from then on. Whereas if they get Hardman and a couple of those guys, they're still battling. So they weren't battling for that. You remember who all was in that class? Read that Georgia signing class. I'll tell you how many people that
was 2017, right?
Yes. I think that's right. And I'll tell you how many people that Tennessee could have gotten out of that class and would have changed things tremendously. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Haun. Enjoy life when you see better. A local vision service for LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examinations. Go to ccteyes.com, ccteyes.com.
Oh, wait, it was 2016. Sorry, I'm pulling it up in 2016. This was Kirby Smart's first signing class.
Okay. As one person with knowledge of the recruitment of both schools, who's very, very tied in, I said, it looks like Tennessee's getting some great players. And he goes, they're not getting the Mecole Hardmans. And I was like, oh, so you're telling me they're dropping behind in talent level to Georgia. So who is in that class?
Okay, so let's see. We're looking at Jacob Eason, Ben Cleveland, Mecole Hardman, Isaac Nada.
Could have got Nada. Could have got Nada. Could have got Hardman at the time. I'm not saying they were going to, but they were in play.
Julian Rochester, Jaleel Loggins, Chauncey Manick, Charlie Werner, Tyler Clark, Javon Wims, McCall Carter, Elijah Holyfield.
They were battling for, but it was pretty obvious he was going to go to Georgia.
Riley Ridley, Chad Clay, David Marshall, Chris Barnes, Tyreek McGee, Brian Harrion, Tyler Simmons, Solomon Kinley, and Marshall Long was that class. That was Kirby Smart's first class. It was an underwhelming class, but this shows you how good of a job Georgia is. Kirby Smart was taking over for Mark Richt, and it was a transition year, and they still had a top 10 class that year. I mean, it's just so easy to recruit. It's funny, Dave, as we were talking, I was looking at players who were from Tennessee that the Vols may have missed out on. And, the ones that I see are more of the players that they just didn't recruit, the Patrick Willises of the world or the Randall Cobbs of the world.
Yeah.
But
So
what about
let's discuss those two cats real quick. Patrick Willis, John Chavis didn't think he was fast enough. He just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. Randall Cobb, Tennessee, didn't offer forever until like the beginning of January, when National Signing Day was the first week of February. They offered him at that point, made up a lot of ground, could have probably gotten him, and then they didn't give Trooper Taylor the coordinator job. He went to Oklahoma State, and that was over. So those are two that people may not know the back history, but that's what happened to those two guys. So you were going to talk about guys that they didn't go after or did go after?
here's one you could tell me. I feel like they did. Did they go after Harrison Smith out of Knoxville?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he just chose
wanted Harrison Smith a lot. A coach may or may not have called me and said, hey, so you could be sure and tell Harrison Smith next time you interview him how Tennessee's every bit as good of a school as Notre Dame. I said I could. I said, but I went to Tennessee. I've been to Notre Dame covering it. That would be a flat out lie. Are you asking me to flat out lie to the young man? Possibly.
And he went with because he was in the same class of Golden Tate, right? Who also was from Tennessee and went to Notre Dame.
Yes. There was a strong Catholic push there in recruiting that wasn't going anywhere, despite where Tennessee wanted it to go. And let's face it, Notre Dame, if nothing else, is always going to have a major insight into the Catholic schools and inside runs. So that's understandable. You told me you had a couple of more recruiting misses.
Yeah,
yeah, lay it on me.
And it was when I was covering, so I can't believe I forgot this. I was just thinking long-time NFL stars, but T. Higgins flipped from Tennessee to Clemson, and like he was committed to Tennessee. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence, but he wasn't committing to Butch Jones. And a lot of people like to bring up Amari Rodgers, T. Martin's son. I don't know if Tennessee was ever going to be in the running because based on the information you gave me, I can't imagine T. Martin holds Butch Jones in any sort of high regard because of that whole situation. And I think he would steer his kid away from Butch Jones as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that was already happening. I think that between T and Butch Jones, I think that was pretty much just an interview that they did to make everybody happy. I don't think that T ever expected to get a job offer. And I don't think...
And Butch Jones threw him under the bus, made it sound like he was one who rejected it. So...
Yep, I thought so too.